All right, we are live. Good morning. It is Wednesday, 8:30 EST, and we are just watching the markets. It's a sticky week. Price is a little sticky. There are opportunities on the lower time frame to make some trades, but I think that what we're looking at right now is, I really can only guess as to why it's sticky. I know Davos is happening right now. You got all the sort of leftist billionaires in the world meeting over in Davos, trying to plan what they want to do with their cattle. That's us. And then, you also have it just the beginning of the year. It's January. It's halfway through January. So, there was a lot of momentum during Christmas. And now Christmas is over, right? So we had the Santa rally. So there's just, I think, just a bit of a reset. We can call it that. So a lack of follow through on price. I was in a nice Euro USD short, and that did not go anywhere. I pretty much exited right above the entry, which in this case, that was a micro loss, very, very small loss for me. And then I took a USD JPY trade that kind of actually did better than that, but I did that quietly. I didn't, it was a pretty risky trade, and it actually won. But the point here is that there are opportunities. We just have to know what kind of market we're in, right? We have to understand that the market is just a little bit slow. And when it's slow, what I do is I have algorithms that are meant for slow markets. They're meant for the chop. And basically, it's a range play. Yeah, you got to look at the range. And right now, on the chart that I'm about to share, let's see here, we're going to look at Bitcoin in a pretty big range, actually. So you can see Bitcoin here is it created a range back in the beginning of December. It pretty much respected it the whole time. It did deviate up a bit here. I think it was based on the fake ETF announcement, or it was just before that, actually. And then and that was in January at the beginning of the year. And then you had the actual ETF occur, and that pushed price up for a number of days. And then price fell back down and is back in that range. And the volatility is super low right now. In fact, it's creating what appears to be a mini range on a lower time frame. So whatever way it breaks out of here, then we might have clues as to what's going to happen next. For example, if I'm currently bearish a little bit, at least in the short term, I'm bearish. Now, it doesn't mean that can change, but right now the algos are bearish for me. So that means that I think that price is probably going to go down. And if price were to go ahead and break out of this mini range to the downside, then I would expect it to possibly bounce back up once it hits the bottom of this area. That could happen. And that might be how I play it, depending on how the algos speak. But that would be the most likely thing, because you have, obviously, this is the bottom of a range. You have pivot points far to the left here. So it might be an opportunity to take some longs, right? It just really depends, like I said, on the rest of the market, how it's reacting, whether or not there actually is a bounce. There are people who would simply just buy the bottom of that range. They wouldn't care what the algo said. And that's one way to go, Now, if it were me, I do like to see a little bit more of certain things in the algos, but I can usually catch it right after it dips. Rarely do I catch the bottom. That's not something I try to do. But, I'll tell you what, if you have buy orders at the bottom of this range, you have a lot of, if you're just a range trader, pure and simple, then you have a lot of room to make money, because you're catching it super, super low, and your stop loss may be somewhere down here, however that might go. That's a 4-to-1. And most of the time these range plays work out. The one time it doesn't, so what? Because you're making 4 times as much when you win. And look at this. You got 1 win, 2 wins, 3 wins, and then you have a loss, right? So, and then you have another win. So you're mostly winning. And all you have to do is win once to make up for 3 losses if you're going to play that range game, right? And that's a great way to trade. I know SZ does that. And, go ahead and watch him if you want to really see how the range play is done. He's good at that. I do the same thing, but I do look for a little bit more understanding of what's going to happen from an algo standpoint once price reaches the bottom of that range. And that's just the way I roll. So let's take a quick look Actually, you know what I want to do is I want to grab the link for this show. Give me a second. I'm going to throw this link up in a couple of places. One, I know for those of you who are in the Rogue community, I'm going to throw the link up in Rogue. And then I don't need to throw it up over on Twitter. That people already have their notification there. Let me tell some guys though. Okay, good. And let me throw this link up over in Discord for the Rogue group. So if you are watching this and you have questions about a chart, it could be, Forex, stocks, crypto, you name it. If you have any questions, go ahead and ask. I will take a look at the chart itself. Let's see here. Okay. Just throwing that link up. Here we go. All right, so let's go ahead and jump over to Ethereum. We're probably going to see, well, Ethereum actually is a little different of a story. We had a pullback to what looks like a 382, and Ethereum has been pretty strong over the last, let's just look at the chart here. But since October, it's been strong, but it has been underperforming Bitcoin quite a bit. But what we did have here is a range, we have a range breakout. Okay, so the way that looks is you have an established range, which is basically right here, and price kept bouncing back and forth, probably just following Bitcoin mostly, and then it went ahead and broke out. Now, when something breaks out, the way I look at this is I look at the prior price action, and I'm not going to betray too much here because the way I handle these actually is something we teach over at Algo Factory. So I'll keep that some of this to myself here, but this is definitely this would probably be this wick here is from the fake Bitcoin ETF. I don't like using those kind of crazy market moves. So essentially this is our, this is our uptrend. And price made it to the first target. The next target I might take actually at about 28.93. If I were in this trade, I would take it 28.93. And algo wise, would I enter right now or would I wait? I think I might wait. Now might not be a bad time to enter, but I would have a deeper stop loss. Like I would have a stop loss below this recent price action if I were to enter now, and I might enter half a position and look to enter another half if price approached that stop loss. So I probably would have a stops down here below this this lower bounded price action, and then I might have my take profit up at about 28.90. So you're looking at a nice 3-to-1, more or less, right there. But I might be pretty conservative with that stops. I would want my stop to be below these high points, right? So, and currently it is. So maybe even a tad deeper. That's a 2.5-to-1. That's a good trade right there. And again, if Bitcoin remains stable, then there's a good chance Ethereum will continue up. There's a lot of talk in the background about Ethereum ETF possibly coming out. I know BlackRock has conversation, but according to the news, that's a long way off, right? So if we're expecting to see an Ethereum ETF possibly with BlackRock, that's not something we would see like right away, probably. MavBet says, good morning, MavBet. I hope you're well. Thanks for joining us. So if you have a chart you want to see, please go ahead and let us know. I'm going to take a look at Solana. Solana has been hot. Let's see here. Solana right now looks like a lot of crypto does. So I'm going to go to a higher time frame and take a view. Look, Solana's hot. I think Solana is long-term bullish for sure. $100 was broken by Solana back in December, right? That was kind of the big number, and it got broken it went all the way up to 125. So you're looking at what's probably the beginning of another move up right now. Let me see what the algos say. Yeah, I mean, look, it could move up now. It might need to gather some more steam. It's hard to say right now, right? Because it's in the middle of a consolidation. So right now, the range that it has created is sitting more or less, I would say, like this. That seems to be the range with the most, sense making, I think. Maybe here, maybe here. I'd say here. So, and that's, yeah, I'd say that's starting about here. A few deviations, though. It's kind of a tricky range. Little bit of deviations. One could actually have the range a little bit higher, I think, to be safe. That's a tricky range, right? But the point here is that I think that if price broke out to this range, and of course, all the algos and everything else lined up. Let me get rid of some of this test noise. I was testing an indicator there. That indicator repaints. That's a bummer. It looks so good, and then you always have to check if an indicator. You always have to check if an indicator repaints, because that's like what I mean by that is when something paints, that's when an indicator shows up on your screen. But if it repaints, that means that it gathers data after it shows up on the screen, and then it can change, and that makes for not as good trading unless you really know how to use that indicator, right? Like you got to test it, understanding that it's a repaint. So anyway, with Solana, I think we're looking at a good chance it's going to bounce down from here. If we kind of have this as the top of the range, we're at least close to the top of the range. So if it does come in contact with, say, 104.40, I might look at a short at that point. But the bias right now, high time frame, is long. So one way that some people play a range is that they always only trade with the bias. So they might wait for price to head down and go long. That might be how some people do. They don't try to catch the short, right? They just try to catch the longs, because this is, long bias right now. It's not terribly strong, just because it had such a momentous rise that it's like catching its breath. But I think that it will pop up to the upside. Very, very good chance of that, especially if Bitcoin remains in that range that it's in right now, right? So now Bitcoin does have a decent chance of heading down a bit, and I have some really good traders who think it's going to break below $20. That's possible, or $20,000. That's possible. Anything is possible. At this point, though, I would be playing this level by level, even as that trader I mentioned would do. Just if it's going to have a down bias, then go ahead and trade that range, trade the resistance and support levels. That's how I would handle that. And then I don't really touch my spot bags. I haven't touched my spot bags in ages, like years. So, but that's what we're looking at. Yeah, probably going to see probably a move down here to, I'm guessing, 85. Now, if it doesn't, then price is going to head up, and you have your resistance at 116, and then the all-time high at 126. So that's Solana. Let me see if I got any requests. None yet. Yeah, pretty cool. I got a few people watching, though. So that's certainly room for requests. I want to check Twitter really quick, X Live, to see if anybody has any comments or requests on that. Let's see here. Okay, no requests. Let's see if I do this. Yeah. Man, the fidelity on Twitter Live is kind of weak, though. I'm looking at this, and I'm transmitting at a good, a good fidelity. So I'm not sure why the fidelity on Twitter is so low, like why the resolution is so low. It's weird. I'm gonna have to address that issue, find out why. All right, I'll get into that later. Okay, back to the charts. Yeah, if you're having a hard time seeing it on Twitter, just roll over to YouTube. I don't know what's going on with that, but it's super fuzzy. The screen's pretty fuzzy on Twitter. Yep. That's right. There's no one watching anyway. So hopefully, if you're watching this after the fact, the resolution is good. But I know I'm transmitting at high res, so don't know what to tell you. We got here. Let's see, that was Solana. Let's look at AVAX. I'm in an AVAX trade now. I took a short. It's just a sticky market. Not much going on. The volatility is super low here. But this is the short, right? I took this during the show, and it's just it broke this head and shoulders. It doesn't want to head down yet for whatever reason, but the highs keep getting lower, right? So you keep getting lower highs. So that means that it should go down, right? So we'll see if it does, right? So let me go to a lower time frame to illustrate this better. You see you got your highs here, high, high, high. So you have highs progressively getting lower over time. This high, this high. This high is about as high as the one before it. But and then of course you got your right shoulder. So ideally you would see everything go ahead and move down at some point. That would, it's a good trade. Not all trades that are good win, right? You have good trades, bad trades. You have winning trades and losing trades. And those are often different things because you can take a bad trade, right? And it wins. So basically a bad trade is something that does not go along with your plan. Yeah. So that's what that is. Let me see if I can mess with the settings on Twitter. I don't understand why Twitter is coming out so blurry. General. Yeah, it's on high def. It's coming out high def. It's weird. I'm gonna have to see if I can test that later. So for those of you on Twitter, apologies if you're looking at it and it's blurry. Don't know what to tell you. All right. So yeah, just this chart kind of explains itself. You got a head and shoulders, and there's a decent chance it'll be a head and shoulders continuation and head down. And then I have my targets as such based on Fibonacci extension. If you want to know more about Fibonacci extension, come over to algofactory.tech and you will be able to learn about it. Okay, so let's see if we have any other requests. March, we did Ethereum already, so I know you might want to see Ethereum. I think I've got a target right now, like, I think I drew it out. Let's just roll back since March is in the house. Just tell my target. And then March, you can go back and watch the show here for the rest of the data. If I remember what I said about this trade, I would have only entered half a position at this time. So I do think price is going to head down. And then it may catch the bottom of this range. Maybe a good entry point, a real good entry might be around, like, say, 2480, even 2460. But then, the algos have to agree. And right now, I didn't enter because the algos didn't say go. So price is short-term bearish, right? See, it could be like a nice trade like this, or it might end up just being something like this. But my target's up at 2890 or so. So that's a little quick review. So let's take a look at some Forex. We just had some data come out, and this would have been in my favor because that's my trade. So it did break downward on my trade. So I'm going to go ahead now that the data is out and re-enter. Give me a moment. And I'm going to have a different stop loss now than I did before. 1.08922. And let's do. Okay. It's entering this trade. Okay. All right, so I have a tighter stop than I used to. That means I can take about 3 times the or a third of the position to make the same kind of profit. And the stop loss is based on, look, this head and shoulders. It really has broken down now. I mean, it broke down before, but it seemed as if the price was waiting for the news to come out today. It's just what it seems like. So this is the new trade. I have my alerts on there. Here we go. Little TP2. I have a take profit right here. TP1. And my entry was at, let's see. $1.08, what is it? 631. Inputs 1.08631, pretty close. All right, so that's a new trade. And you get to see that live. That's a freebie. So there you go. And it looks like it's getting pretty close to being in profit. If it's just lacks profit for the spread. So it's now right at entry. It's actually below entry. Whistle while you wager, says Lisa Gray. Yeah, I like to whistle while I work. Oh man. Okay, so yeah, actually, the wife and I don't do Disney. We actually kind of boycott them. But you know, and we don't. Our sons never watch TV. One time we let them watch. Jack Frost, that 1979 one, I think it was. And that's like that live action stop motion old school stuff, you know, Christmas type special from way back. And he just loved it. Of course he loved it. There was like a little groundhog, and he just thought that groundhog was so funny. But we don't let him watch TV besides that. It's the only time he's ever watched TV. If we have family over, sometimes they'll watch tennis. My family likes, my in-laws love tennis. And so he's been in the room while tennis was on, but we usually actually will shut it off unless it's like a family party. We don't have the TV on, so we don't let him watch TV. That is that. But my wife and I threw on Snow White, the original. This is while Disney still had a soul, and I mean for something that came out in the 30s, that is amazing. It is so good, and that's where Whistle While You Work came from, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, that's that. So if you guys and gals have another request, we got time for about one more. All right. I'm going to look at USD JPY now that things are back, because I had that little winner and I took it off. So yeah, USD JPY is on a tear upwards. We talked about this with Valentine yesterday in our private group. And so it's just, look, the USD JPY has some fundamentals about it that we got a report from the Gorilla in our private group, like a long report about that. And so basically what's going on there is the USD JPY is going to continue to get pushed up. And then as it approaches 152 or so, 152 yen to the dollar, there's always that chance that it's going to break downwards. But, because then they may be protecting their currency. So the thing to understand there is that until price comes to that point, longs are good. And then so far, for a short time after that, shorts are good, right? So for a few weeks, you got some real strong shorts. Had to sneeze there. Sorry, folks. But that's the plan. Now, we haven't seen it break above 150. I don't know if, that's some kind of a rupture point where stuff goes bad, or I really don't know what's going on with, let me hide this real quick. Let's see here. Where is my hide button? Oh, well, screw it. It's going away. All right, so I don't know if there's something that happens with their economy once it goes above 150. I mean, if it's been the high, then I'm sure there's a reason for it. So I would expect price, if it approached that level, to actually bounce back downwards like so. That's what I would expect. If it doesn't, if it goes above, and if it stays above, say for 2 or 3 weeks, then we might be seeing a change in what's going on, and price may continue up like this. But historically, the yen has not been allowed to go. Really, the high for a long time was about 125 yen to the dollar, right? But now we've seen a break above that. So it looks like this. You had this range, more or less, especially towards the end. This is a giant head and shoulders, really. A giant. This is at like a 20-year head and shoulders. Could look at it like that. Let's pattern that out just to see what happens. And I guess this will be the last chart until we go to the private group here. Just for you know what and giggles. All right, and then we have our fib extension here. Well, it's already hit the 618. So that's probably, that may be just naturally why it stopped at 152. So the next stop would be around, about 173. Might be where it stops next if it breaks loose. So that's a very extended target, but it can happen. Usually it would stop here at the 618. So, but that's the weekly chart. There's not that many people I know who trade on such a high time frame. Right, but this could also be looked at as a cup and handle. So, the handle is still forming. I'll zoom in on this. Oops, that's a circle. Let's go to the arc. That was an ellipse. All right, so here's our cup. Handle is forming. So if price were to move up past that handle and stay above there, like I said, for maybe 2-3 weeks, I would think that we could have some short-term targets based on the cup and handle. Well, there you go. There it is again, 167. That's pretty close to that one. Well, the top of this is 173. So we are looking at similar, kind of areas. 173 seems to be the number. So I would guess that the yen might roll up there. We'll see about it. Well, I think that's going to be it for the live show. So thank you all for showing up. Again, over on Twitter, I'm going to get that resolution issue solved if I can. I'm not sure what the problem is with that. Not sure why we're seeing such a grainy, fuzzy screen, right? So we'll have to do some testing, so on and so forth. But in the meantime, head over to algofactory.tech. You'll see in the top right-hand corner of the screen, there is a QR code. Zap that, take you straight to our website, www.algofactory.tech. We teach you how to make your own trading algorithm, your own trading method, right? So it's like old school trading, but if you want to code it, you want to hand code it into an algorithm, that is something we can put you on the path to do as well. And that way it can trade for you while you are going about your day. And it is a lot more hands off once you're at that point. I mean, it's not completely hands off. You still have to manage your trades a little bit. You have to actually watch the market to know when to and when not to be entering trades. That's actually a part of it. But besides that, it'll pretty much find the trades and enter them for you. And that is humongous. That's a huge time saver. And it can track, however many, whatever you're trading. Like, you can track a bunch of crypto pairs, a bunch of Forex pairs. You don't have to sit there and watch it all. So come join us. We'd love to show you how that works. And we'll go over to the private lab right now. See you, folks.